Captain Sarah Chen had been monitoring deep space transmissions for 12 years, but she had never heard anything like this. The sound came through the speakers of the research station, Horizon's Edge, like a broken song, beautiful and haunting and completely alien. It wasn't the usual static of cosmic radiation or the mechanical beeping of distant probes. This was something alive, something in pain. "Computer, run analysis on signal frequency 447.2, she commanded, leaning forward in her chair. The massive viewing screen filled with wavelengths and data streams, but the sound continued to play in the background, a low, mournful call that seemed to tug at something deep in her chest. "Analysis complete," the AI responded in its calm, neutral voice. "Signal shows patterns consistent with intelligent communication. Source unknown. Distance, approximately 2.7 light-years from current position." Sarah's breath caught. Intelligent communication from an unknown source meant only one thing: first contact with an alien species. But this didn't sound like any attempt at communication humanity had theorized about. This sounded like crying. She played the transmission again, closing her eyes and listening carefully. The sound rose and fell in waves, sometimes breaking into what could only be described as sobs. Whatever was making this sound was suffering, and somehow, impossibly, Sarah could feel that suffering as if it were her own. "Dr. Martinez to the bridge," she called over the intercom. "Priority 1. Dr. Elena Martinez, the station's xenobiologist, arrived within minutes, still pulling on her lab coat. "Sarah, what's wrong?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Listen to this." Sarah played the transmission once more. Elena's expression changed from curiosity to concern to something approaching awe. "That's not random," Elena whispered. "There's structure there, patterns. It's language, but more than that. It's emotion. Raw, pure emotion." "That's what I thought, too." Sarah pulled up the source coordinates on the main screen. "It's coming from the Kepler 442 system. We could reach it in 3 weeks with the new jump drives." Elena raised an eyebrow. "You're suggesting we go investigate?" "Sarah, this could be anything. It could be dangerous." "Listen to it again, Elena. Really listen." Sarah played a longer segment of the transmission. The sound filled the bridge, that heartbreaking call that seemed to speak directly to the soul. "Does that sound dangerous to you? That's not aggression. That's not a threat. That's a cry for help." Elena was quiet for a long moment, her scientific mind warring with something deeper, more human. "Even if you're right, we're just a research station. We don't have the authority to make contact decisions." "No, but we have the ability to relay this to Earth Command and recommend action." Sarah turned to face her friend fully. "Elena, in all your years studying the possibility of alien life, what did you hope we'd find?" "I hoped we'd find intelligence, curiosity, maybe even friendship," Elena admitted. "And what if we found pain instead? What if the first voice we heard from the stars was asking for help?" The question hung in the air between them. Sarah could see the moment Elena made her decision. The exact instant when the scientist became fully human again. "Send the transmission to Earth Command," Elena said. "Full recommendation for investigation. And start plotting a course to Kepler 442. The message reached Earth in 4 hours through the quantum relay network. The response came back in 6 hours, and it wasn't what they expected. "Horizon's Edge. This is Admiral Jackson at Earth Command. Your transmission has been analyzed by our top xenolinguistics team. We concur with your assessment. This appears to be a distress call. You are authorized to investigate, but do not, repeat, do not make contact without further authorization. Observe only. A full diplomatic team is being dispatched, but they won't reach your position for 3 months. Be careful out there." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. 3 months. Whatever was making that sound had been crying out for help, and it would be alone for 3 more months while bureaucrats and diplomats decided the proper protocol for responding to alien suffering. "Plot the jump to Kepler 442, she ordered the navigation computer. "Best possible speed." The next 3 weeks passed in a mixture of anticipation and growing dread. The transmission continued, never stopping, never wavering. Sometimes it seemed stronger, sometimes weaker, but it never ended. The crew of Horizon's Edge found themselves drawn to listen to it during their off hours, gathering in small groups around speakers, trying to understand what they were hearing. Chief Engineer Tom Bradley was the first to put words to what everyone was feeling. "It sounds like it's getting weaker," he said quietly during one of their informal listening sessions. "Like whatever's making this sound is wearing out." "The signal strength is declining," confirmed Lieutenant Kim Park from Communications, "about 2% per day. If it continues at this rate—" She didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood. If they were right about this being a distress call, they might be listening to someone dying. The day they entered the Kepler 442 system, the entire crew was on edge. The transmission was now noticeably weaker, and there were gaps in it that hadn't been there before. Long stretches of silence followed by renewed calls that sounded even more desperate than before. "Sensor sweep of the system," Sarah ordered. "Look for any artificial structures, energy signatures, anything that could be the source." The results came back within an hour. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called from her station, voice tight with emotion, "you need to see this." The main screen changed to show a long-range visual of the system's 4th planet. It was blue and green, clearly habitable, clearly beautiful, and it was surrounded by debris. "Magnify," Sarah whispered. The image zoomed in, and the truth became clear. The debris wasn't natural. It was the remains of what had once been a massive space station, or perhaps a ship. Pieces of metal and crystal floated in a loose cloud around the planet, glinting in the light of the system's star. "There." Elena pointed to a section of the wreckage that was larger than the rest. "That piece is still emitting energy. The signal is coming from there." Sarah stared at the wreckage, her heart sinking. They weren't just listening to a distress call. They were listening to the last survivor of what must have been a catastrophe beyond imagination. "Take us closer," she ordered. "Full scan of that debris field. I want to know what happened here." As the Horizon's Edge moved deeper into the system, the scale of the destruction became apparent. The debris field stretched for thousands of kilometers. Whatever had happened here had destroyed something enormous, something that had probably taken generations to build. "Captain," Dr. Martinez called from her station, "I'm reading massive radiation signatures throughout the debris field. This wasn't an accident. This was a war." The transmission grew stronger as they approached the source, and with the increased clarity came increased heartbreak. The sound was definitely organic, definitely alive, and definitely in agony. But there was something else now, something that made Sarah's blood run cold. "Computer, run a biological analysis on the transmission patterns," she ordered. "Analysis complete. Vocal patterns suggest a large, reptilian-based life form. Estimated age based on vocal development, juvenile, possibly pre-adult." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Elena gasped audibly. Whatever was making this sound, whatever was calling out in pain and terror and loneliness, it was young. "How young?" Elena asked, though her voice suggested she might not want to know the answer. "Based on vocal pattern analysis and comparison to Earth reptilian species, equivalent to a human child between 8 and 12 years of age." The bridge fell silent, except for the sound of that endless, heartbroken call. They weren't just listening to a survivor of an alien war. They were listening to a child who had been alone for who knew how long, crying for help that had never come. "Orders, Captain?" Lieutenant Park asked quietly. Sarah looked at the debris field on the screen, then at the faces of her crew. Every single person on the bridge was thinking the same thing. Somewhere in that wreckage was a frightened child who had been calling for help for weeks or months, or possibly years, and they were being ordered to just watch and wait for proper authorization. Lieutenant Park, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we have located the source of the transmission. Tell them it appears to be a juvenile survivor of what looks like a massive battle. Tell them... She paused, choosing her words carefully. Tell them that human decency demands immediate action. And if they order us to wait? Sarah looked at the screen again, where the wreckage of an alien civilization drifted silently around a beautiful world, and somewhere in that wreckage, a child was crying. Then we'll have to decide whether we're explorers or humans first, she said quietly. Send the message and prepare a rescue shuttle, just in case. The transmission grew stronger as they approached, and now they could hear new details that made the situation even more heartbreaking. There were pauses in the crying where the sound became different, almost like words, like the child was trying to call specific names. Trying to call for its parents, perhaps, or its family. Captain, Communications Officer Park said, her voice barely above a whisper. The signal is definitely coming from that large piece of debris at coordinates 347 Mark 12. I'm reading life support systems, minimal but stable. And Captain, there's something else. What? The debris isn't drifting randomly. Someone is controlling it, keeping it in a stable orbit around the planet. Whoever is in there is alive and conscious. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, fighting back tears she didn't fully understand. Somewhere ahead of them, an alien child was using what little technology remained to keep itself alive, calling endlessly for help while maintaining orbit around what might be its homeworld. Time to reach the debris? She asked. 6 hours at current speed, 6 hours. 6 hours to figure out how to make contact with a traumatized alien child without causing more fear, 6 hours to prepare for a rescue that might be illegal under human law, but was definitely required under human conscience. All hands, this is the captain, Sarah announced over the ship's intercom. In 6 hours, we're going to attempt to rescue a survivor. I won't lie to you, this goes against our current orders. But sometimes being human means doing the right thing, even when it's not the authorized thing. Anyone who has objections can state them now, and there will be no consequences. She waited, but no objections came. Dr. Martinez, prepare a first contact protocol focused on non-threatening approach. Chief Bradley, I want the shuttle ready for immediate launch. Lieutenant Park, monitor that transmission. If it changes in any way, I want to know immediately. Captain, Elena said quietly, what if Earth Command orders us to abort? Sarah looked at the debris field ahead of them, where somewhere an alien child was crying for help, that had finally, after an impossible journey across the stars, arrived. Then we'll discover whether our humanity is stronger than our chain of command, she said. Because I don't know about you, but I didn't become an explorer to leave children alone in the dark. The shuttle Compassion detached from Horizon's Edge, with a crew of 4. Captain Chen, Dr. Martinez, Chief Bradley, and Communications Specialist Park. As they approached the largest piece of debris, the alien transmission grew so clear they could hear breathing between the calls. Dear God, Elena whispered. It really is just a child. The debris piece revealed itself to be a fragment of what had once been an enormous vessel. The section they were approaching was roughly cylindrical, about the size of a city block, with smooth metallic walls scarred by what looked like weapon burns. Most importantly, there were windows, and through one of them, they could see movement. There! Tom pointed to a large, transparent section near what appeared to be the front of the fragment. Something's moving inside. As they drew closer, they caught their first glimpse of the being they had traveled so far to help. It was magnificent and heartbreaking at the same time. The creature was unmistakably dragon-like, but unlike any dragon from human mythology. Its scales shimmered between deep blue and silver, catching the light from the system's star. It had 6 limbs, 4 legs and 2 wings that were folded against its body. Even curled up as it was clearly enormous, probably 30 feet long from nose to tail. But despite its size, there was something undeniably young about it. The proportions were slightly awkward, like a human teenager who hadn't grown into their height yet. "It's beautiful," Elena breathed. The dragon lifted its head as their shuttle approached, and they could see its eyes clearly for the first time. They were huge and golden and filled with an intelligence that was unmistakably aware. But more than that, they were filled with hope. For the first time in who knew how long, someone had come. "Kim, can you set up a communication link?" Sarah asked. "Something simple, just to let it know we're here to help?" Kim worked frantically at her console. "I'm picking up multiple transmission frequencies from the debris. The creature is actively trying to communicate on several channels. It's learning our signal patterns and trying to match them." The dragon in the window had moved closer, pressing against the transparent barrier. Its mouth was open, and they could see that the heartbreaking calls they had been hearing were coming directly from it. But now, seeing them, its calls were changing. There was excitement in them, desperate hope, and something that sounded remarkably like joy. "I'm going to try a simple mathematical sequence," Kim announced. "Prime numbers, universal mathematical concepts." She sent a simple signal, 1, 3, 5, 7, 11. The response was immediate. The dragon's calls stopped, and for a moment there was silence. Then, from their speakers, came a series of tones that perfectly matched their signal. The dragon had understood and was responding. "Now what?" Tom asked. "Now we try to tell it we want to help," Sarah said. "Kim, can you encode a simple message? Maybe friend or help?" Before Kim could respond, their instruments lit up with activity. The dragon was sending them something complex, a stream of data that seemed far too sophisticated for random communication. "Captain," Elena called out, staring at her readings, "this is incredible. The dragon is downloading language data directly into our computers. It's teaching itself to communicate with us in real time." "How is that possible?" "I think it's been listening to our transmission since we entered the system. It's been analyzing our language patterns, and now it's using what it learned to build a translation matrix." The data stream continued for several minutes, and then, impossibly, a voice came through their speakers. It was clearly artificial, generated by computer, but it spoke in perfect English with a distinctly young, hopeful tone. "Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Please, can you hear me?" Sarah's hands shook as she reached for the communication controls. "Yes," she said, her voice rough with emotion. "Yes, we can hear you. We're here to help." The pause that followed seemed to last forever. Then the voice came again, and this time it was shaking with emotion. "You came. I called and you came. I knew someone would come. I knew someone kind would hear me and come." Elena wiped tears from her eyes. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Name? My designation is— No, wait, name. A personal identifier for social interaction. My name is— My family called me Zara. I am Zara." "Hello, Zara," Sarah said. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen. We received your transmission and came as quickly as we could. Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" "Hurt? No, I am not physically damaged. But I think your word would be lonely. I have been alone for 347 of your days. I counted them. I counted every single one." The crew exchanged glances. Nearly a year alone. "Zara," Elena said carefully, "what happened here? Where is everyone else?" The silence that followed was so long they began to worry the communication had been cut off. When Zara finally spoke, her voice was smaller, sadder. They are gone, all gone. The hunters came, and my family tried to run, but there were too many. The ship was damaged and falling apart, and they put me in this section because it was the safest. They said they would come back for me after they fixed the engines, but they never came back. The hunters? Tom asked. Bad people. Very bad people who hurt others for no reason, except that they enjoy hurting. They found our world and said we were too different, too strange to live. They said the universe would be better without us. My parents said the hunters were afraid of us because we were not like them, because we could do things they could not do. Sarah felt sick. Zara, what kind of things could your people do? We could sing to the stars and make them listen. We could touch broken things and make them whole again. We could speak to other minds across great distances. My mother could heal any injury just by singing to it. My father could grow food from bare rock. I was learning to do these things too, but I was not very good yet. Elena gasped. Psychic abilities. They had natural psychic abilities. Is that bad? Zara asked, and there was fear in the generated voice. Are you afraid of me now? Will you leave like everyone else said they would? No, Sarah said quickly. No, Zara, we're not afraid, and we're not leaving. Different doesn't mean bad. Different is just different. My parents said there might be people like you somewhere. People who would not be afraid. People who would understand that being different does not mean being dangerous. They told me to keep calling for help because somewhere in the stars there had to be someone kind. Tom cleared his throat roughly. Kid, your parents were right. We're not going anywhere. You are not going to leave me here? The hope in those words was so desperate it made Sarah's chest ache. Absolutely not. We're going to get you out of there right now. Can you tell us about the docking systems on your ship fragment? Yes, I can guide you. I have been studying your ship since you arrived. Your docking system should be compatible with ours. I can open the bay doors and guide you in. As they maneuvered the shuttle toward the docking bay that Zara indicated, she kept talking. It was like a dam had burst, words flowing out as if she was afraid that if she stopped talking, they would disappear. I kept everything working, she said proudly. The life support, the gravity, the lights. I taught myself how to repair things by watching the maintenance records. I am very good at learning. My teacher said I was the quickest student she had ever seen, but I think she was just being kind. I doubt that, Elena said. Building a real-time translation program in a few minutes? That takes incredible intelligence. You think I am intelligent? Really? The hunters said my people were too stupid to live. They said we were just animals pretending to be sentient. Sarah's jaw clenched. The hunters were wrong, Zara. Very, very wrong. The docking bay doors opened smoothly, revealing a space that was clearly designed for much larger vessels. Their small shuttle looked tiny inside it, but everything was clean and well-maintained. Testament to Zara's dedication to keeping her small world running. As the airlock cycled and the doors opened, they got their first real look at the inside of the alien vessel. The architecture was flowing and organic, all curves and gentle angles. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that gave off a soft, warm light. It was beautiful and obviously built by beings who valued both aesthetics and function. Zara was waiting for them in what appeared to be a central living area, and seeing her in person was both wonderful and heartbreaking. She was even more magnificent than she had appeared through the window, her scales catching the light and throwing back rainbows. But she was also clearly young, and clearly lonely, and clearly desperate for companionship. When she saw them, she made a sound that needed no translation, pure joy. She moved toward them in a way that was half walk, half fly, her wings helping to propel her forward. "You are real," she said, and now they could hear her actual voice, musical and beautiful, even when generated through the translation system. "You are really here. I was starting to think I had imagined you. Elena stepped forward slowly, hands visible and empty. We're real, Zara. We're here, and we're going to take care of you. Zara stopped just out of arm's reach, clearly wanting to come closer but uncertain if it was allowed. Would it be acceptable if I touched you? I have not touched another living being in so very long. Sarah felt her heart break all over again. Of course. Zara extended one taloned hand very carefully, gently touching Sarah's arm. Her scales were warm and smooth, and her touch was incredibly gentle for such a large being. You are warm, Zara said wonderingly, and your skin is so soft. How do you survive without scales to protect you? We're tougher than we look, Tom said, and Zara's head swung toward him, eyes wide with curiosity. You are much smaller than my people, but you cross the emptiness between stars to help me. That means you are very brave, or very stubborn, Kim added with a smile. Zara tilted her head in a gesture that was remarkably similar to a human expression of confusion. Stubborn? It means we don't give up easily, Sarah explained. When we decide to do something, especially something right, we keep trying until we succeed. That is a good quality, Zara said seriously. My father was stubborn. He never gave up trying to find a safe place for us to live, even when the hunters followed us from world to world. He never stopped believing we would find somewhere safe. The mention of her family brought a shadow to Zara's golden eyes. Would you like to see them? She asked quietly. I have recordings. I saved everything I could when the ship was breaking apart. Elena nodded gently. If you'd like to share them with us. Zara led them to what appeared to be a memorial area she had created. The walls were covered with holographic images of her family and her people. They were all dragon-like, but each was unique. Some were larger, some smaller. Some had different colored scales, some had different horn configurations. All of them looked intelligent, gentle, and kind. This is my mother, Lyra, Zara said, indicating a dragon with scales that shifted from silver to purple. She was a healer. She could sing diseases away and make broken bones whole with just her voice. This is my father, Kale. The dragon, she indicated, was larger, with deep gold scales and wise eyes. He could make things grow. He said all life was connected, and he could speak to that connection. She moved to another image, a group of smaller dragons. These are my nestmates. We were all hatched in the same year. Vex could speak to machines and make them do things they were never built to do. Rin could see the future, but only happy things. She said sad futures were too heavy for anyone to carry, and Mora could touch someone's mind and take away their pain, their fear, their sadness. Sarah realized she was crying and didn't care. They sound wonderful. They were. We all were learning. Our teacher said we were the most gifted generation ever born to our people. She said we would grow up to do amazing things, to help many people, to make the universe brighter. Zara's voice became very small. But we never got the chance. What did the hunters want? Elena asked gently. Zara was quiet for a long moment, looking at the images of her lost family. They were afraid of us, she said finally. They said beings with our abilities were too dangerous to exist. They said we would eventually use our gifts to conquer and control others, so they had to destroy us first. But they were wrong. We never wanted to hurt anyone. We only wanted to help, to heal, to make things better. She touched one of the holographic images, and it flickered with response to her presence. My people spent centuries traveling the galaxy, helping others. When we found worlds where disease was killing everyone, we healed them. When we found worlds where nothing would grow, we made them fertile. When we found people who were sad or afraid, we comforted them. We never asked for anything in return. We just wanted to help. Tom cleared his throat. The hunters killed your entire species because they were afraid you might someday become what they already were? Zara looked confused. I do not understand. The hunters were conquerors and killers, Sarah explained gently. They assumed that because they would use those abilities to hurt others, you would too. They couldn't understand that not everyone thinks the way they do. But that makes no sense. Why would anyone want to hurt others when they could help instead? Helping feels so much better. The innocence in that question hit all four humans like a physical blow. Here was a being from a species that had apparently evolved beyond cruelty, beyond the drive to dominate and destroy. And they had been wiped out by those who couldn't imagine such evolution was possible. Zara, Elena said carefully, how many of your people were there? Before the hunters? Our last census counted 847,000 individuals across 17 worlds. We were not a large species, but we were happy. We had art and music and poetry. We had families and children and dreams. We had hope for the future. She paused. After the hunters, there is just me. The silence that followed was deafening. An entire species, nearly 1 million peaceful, gifted beings, reduced to one lonely child in the wreckage of a ship. Zara, Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. You're coming with us. You're never going to be alone again. But where will I go? The hunters destroyed all our worlds. There is nowhere left for me. Sarah looked at her crew, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. You'll come with us. To Earth, to humanity. We're not perfect, but we're learning to be better. And we believe in protecting those who need protection. Would your people accept me? Even though I am different? Even though I am alone? Tom laughed, but it was a gentle sound. Kid, half the things that make humanity great come from us taking in strays and outcasts and making them family. Different isn't a problem for us. Different makes us stronger. Zara's eyes grew bright with tears. You would do that? You would give me a home even though I have nothing to offer in return? You have everything to offer, Elena said firmly. You have knowledge, wisdom, abilities that could help humanity grow and learn. But more than that, you have yourself. You're kind and intelligent and brave. Any family would be lucky to have you. For the first time since they had met her, Zara smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her look younger and more hopeful than they had yet seen her. I would like that very much, she said. I would like to be part of a family again. The journey back to Horizon's edge should have been simple. But Zara had insisted on bringing some personal items from the wreckage. As they helped her pack her few belongings, the humans began to understand the true depth of what she had endured. In what had been her sleeping area, Zara had carefully arranged a collection of objects that made Elena's heart ache. There were small holographic projectors displaying images of her family, but more heartbreaking were the improvised toys she had clearly made for herself during her long isolation. Pieces of ship components had been carefully shaped into crude figures that obviously represented her lost family members. I made them so I would not forget, Zara explained, carefully wrapping each one. At first, I could remember everything perfectly, but after many months, the memories started to become unclear. I was afraid I would forget their faces, their voices, so I made these to help me remember. Tom knelt down beside one of the figures, a crude but recognizable representation of the dragon Zara had shown them as her mother. This looks just like her, he said gently. I practiced every day. I would talk to them and pretend they could hear me. It helped with the loneliness, but it also made it worse because they never answered back. Zara picked up the figure representing her father. Sometimes I would dream that they had come back, that they were calling my name and telling me they were sorry for leaving me so long. But then I would wake up and remember that dreams are not real. Sarah watched Zara carefully pack these pathetic treasures and felt something break inside her chest. This child had spent nearly a year alone, creating imaginary companions from scrap metal just to survive the crushing isolation. But there was something else in the room that was even more heartbreaking. In one corner, Zara had set up what was clearly a classroom. Holographic displays showed complex mathematical equations, star charts, and what appeared to be biological data. Books made from some kind of crystalline material were stacked neatly on shelves. "Zara," Elena asked carefully, "what is all this?" "My education," Zara said matter-of-factly. "My teacher always said that learning must never stop, that knowledge was the greatest gift we could give to ourselves and others. So I kept studying. I learned everything the ship's computer could teach me. Mathematics, science, history, literature from 17 different worlds. I hoped that if I became very smart, very useful, then whoever found me would want to keep me." The casual way she said it, as if she expected to have to earn the right to be cared for, made Kim turn away with tears in her eyes. "I also tried to learn about other species," Zara continued, pulling up a display showing anatomical diagrams of dozens of different alien races. "I wanted to be ready in case the people who found me were different from my people. I studied how they communicated, what they needed to survive, what might frighten them. I did not want to scare away the people who might rescue me." Sarah stared at the display. Zara had spent months learning about alien biology and psychology, not out of academic curiosity, but out of desperate hope that knowledge might make her more acceptable to potential rescuers. "This one is you," Zara said, highlighting a section labeled Bipedal Carbon-Based Humanoids. "I was very excited when I realized you were humans. The database said humans were known for being, what is the word, compassionate? That they often helped others even when it was difficult or dangerous. I hoped that meant you would help me too." "Of course we're going to help you," Elena said, her voice rough with emotion. "You don't have to earn our help, Zara. You don't have to be useful or smart or anything other than yourself." Zara looked confused. "But how can that be? Everyone must contribute something. Everyone must have a purpose. What is my purpose if not to learn and be useful?" The question revealed something that shattered whatever was left of their hearts. Zara had spent her isolation not just fighting loneliness, but desperately trying to make herself worthy of rescue. She had pushed herself to learn and grow and become valuable because she believed that was the only way anyone would want her. "Your purpose," Sarah said firmly, "is to be Zara. To be yourself. You don't have to earn the right to exist or to be cared for. You have value just because you are who you are." "I do not understand," Zara said, and there was something almost fearful in her voice. "If I am not useful, why would anyone want to keep me?" Tom sat down heavily on what might have been a chair designed for beings much larger than humans. "Kid, let me tell you something about humans. We're pack animals. When we find someone who needs help, especially someone young, our instinct is to protect and care for them. Not because they're useful, but because it's right, because everyone deserves to be safe and loved. But I am not human. I am not even close to human. I am large and strange, and I have abilities that might frighten people." "Do you want to hurt people?" Elena asked. "No, never." "Hurting others is wrong." "Then your abilities don't frighten us. Different doesn't mean dangerous, Zara. Different just means interesting." As they continued packing, they discovered more evidence of Zara's desperate attempts to prepare herself for rescue. She had created detailed files on human culture, human psychology, human dietary needs. She had learned 17 human languages. She had even attempted to study human humor, creating a collection of what she thought were jokes based on linguistic analysis. "Why did you do all this?" Sarah asked. Because I wanted to be the best possible person I could be for whoever found me, Zara said simply. My family taught me that we should always try to bring joy and help to others. I thought if I could understand humans perfectly, I could be helpful to them and they would want me to stay. The crew exchanged glances. Zara had essentially tried to rebuild her entire personality around what she thought humans would want, all while being completely alone and grieving the loss of her entire species. But there was one more discovery that would prove to be the most heartbreaking of all. As they were preparing to leave, Kim noticed something odd about the ship's computer system. Zara, why are there so many active communication channels? Are you broadcasting on multiple frequencies? Oh, that. Zara looked embarrassed. I have been sending messages to other survivors, just in case. Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. Other survivors? Zara, are there others of your people alive? I do not know. Probably not. But I hoped that maybe someone else escaped. Maybe someone else was hiding somewhere, calling for help like I was. So I've been broadcasting messages to them every day. What kind of messages? Zara activated one of the communication panels, and her voice filled the room. But this time, it was in her own language, a beautiful, musical sound that was clearly a child calling for her family. I do not know if anyone can hear me. The translation came through a moment later. But this is Zara, daughter of Lyra and Kale of the 7th nest of the ship Star Whisper. I am alive and safe on the remains of our ship. If you are out there, if anyone is out there, please answer me. Please tell me I am not alone. I will wait for you. I will wait forever if I have to. Please come home. The message repeated, and they realized it had been repeating every day for nearly a year. Zara had been broadcasting a message to her family, just in case they were still alive somewhere, telling them where she was and that she was waiting for them to come home. Elena was openly crying now. Zara, honey, how long are you planning to keep broadcasting? Until I know for sure they are gone, Zara said quietly. The computer estimates that if any other ships escaped the attack, they could be anywhere within a sphere of several hundred light years. The message might take years to reach them, and their answer might take years to reach me. But what if they are out there? What if they are trying to find me, but they do not know where to look? I cannot stop calling to them until I know for certain. Sarah closed her eyes, trying to imagine the depth of hope and denial that had kept this child broadcasting messages to family members who were almost certainly dead, just on the chance that somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, someone who loved her might hear her voice and come home. Zara, she said gently, what if we brought your message to Earth? Our communications network spans hundreds of star systems. We could broadcast your message much farther than you can from here. You would do that? You would help me look for my family? Of course we would. Zara was quiet for a long moment. And if we never find them? If I really am the last one? Then you become part of our family, Tom said firmly. And you'll never be alone again. But what about the hunters? What if they find Earth? What if they hurt your people because of me? Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her own heart. Zara, let me tell you something about humans. We have a saying, nobody hurts our kids. If the hunters want to threaten you, they'll have to go through all of humanity to do it, and I promise you, that's a fight they won't win. Your people would really fight to protect me, even though I am not human? Especially because you need protection, Elena said. That's what families do, Zara. They protect each other. The journey back to Horizon's Edge gave them time to fully process what they had learned. Zara had spent 11 months alone, not just surviving, but trying to become worthy of rescue. She had educated herself, prepared for contact, maintained hope, and never stopped calling for her lost family. She had done all of this while being essentially a traumatized child, dealing with the worst kind of grief imaginable. But perhaps most remarkably, she had retained her essential kindness and hope. Despite everything she had endured, despite losing everyone she had ever loved, she still believed in the goodness of others. She still wanted to help and contribute and be useful. When they docked with Horizon's Edge, word had already spread throughout the ship. The entire crew was waiting to meet Zara, and their response was everything Sarah could have hoped for. There was no fear, no suspicion, only genuine warmth and welcome. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patel approached Zara with the same gentle manner she used with frightened children in the medical bay. "Hello, Zara. I'm Dr. Patel. I wanted to make sure you're healthy and see if there's anything you need." "I am physically well," Zara said, still shy around new people. "But is it normal to feel sad and happy at the same time?" Dr. Patel smiled sadly. "When you've been through what you have, yes, that's very normal. You're sad because you've lost so much, but happy because you're not alone anymore. Both feelings are okay." Cook Martinez stepped forward with a tray of various foods. "I wasn't sure what you might like to eat, so I brought a little of everything. We can figure out what works for your biology." Engineer's mate Johnson offered her a small device he had been working on. "It's a universal translator upgrade. I thought it might help you communicate more easily while you're learning our spoken language." One by one, each crew member introduced themselves and offered something: food, comfort, assistance, friendship. Zara's eyes grew bright with tears again. "They are all being so kind," she whispered to Sarah. "Why are they being so kind to a stranger?" "Because they're human," Sarah said simply. "And because you're not a stranger. You're family now." That evening, as Horizon's Edge prepared for the journey back to Earth, Sarah found Zara in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The young dragon was still broadcasting her message to her lost family, but now the signal was being amplified through the ship's more powerful communications array. "Do you really think we might find them?" Zara asked quietly. Sarah joined her at the viewport, looking out at the vast expanse of stars. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But I know we'll never stop looking. And I know that whether we find them or not, you have a place with us. Captain Chen? Sarah? May I ask you something?" "Of course. When we reach Earth, will you help me learn to be human? Not to change who I am, but to understand how to live among your people? I want to be a good family member." Sarah felt tears sting her eyes. "Zara, you don't need to learn to be human. You just need to learn to be yourself around humans. And trust me, that's going to be more than enough." Zara was quiet for a moment, then began to sing softly in her own language. The song was beautiful and sad and hopeful all at once, and even without understanding the words, Sarah could feel its meaning. It was a song of loss and longing, but also of gratitude and new hope. "What is that song?" she asked. "It is a song my mother taught me," Zara said. "It is about the stars, and how even when we are far from home, we are all still connected by the light that shines between worlds. She said that no matter how far we travel or how lost we become, the stars will always guide us home. I think your mother was very wise." "She was. And I think she would be happy that I found you. That I found people who are kind and brave enough to help someone they do not know, just because it is the right thing to do." As Horizon's Edge jumped to FTL speed, beginning the long journey home, Sarah thought about what they were bringing back to Earth. Not just first contact with an alien species, but something much more precious, a child who had lost everything but never lost hope, who had faced the worst the universe could offer and still believed in kindness. Humanity had always been defined by its willingness to reach out to those in need, to offer help and hope, even when it was difficult or dangerous. Today, they had proven that this quality would extend beyond their own species, to the stars themselves. And somewhere in the vast network of human space, a message was now broadcasting in a beautiful musical language, calling to any survivors of a gentle species, telling them that there was a place of safety waiting for them, and that they would never have to be alone again. The dragon's cry for help had been answered. What humanity found had indeed shattered their hearts, but it had also shown them the very best of what they could be when they chose compassion over fear, love over suspicion, and hope over despair. Zara was going home, and in finding her family among the stars, humanity had discovered something precious about itself, that the greatest strength of their species was not their technology or their courage, but their capacity to love and protect those who needed love and protection, no matter how different they might be. In the observation deck, a young dragon sang songs of hope to the stars, surrounded by a new family who had crossed the void to answer her call. And for the first time in nearly a year, her song was no longer alone.